Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy, Boulanger. Up next, post game, off season aftermath. Let's talk. As you all know, and you're probably still feeling upset, frustrated, pissed off, sad, down, depressed, whatever it is from the Baltimore Ravens loss yesterday to the Buffalo Bills, our off season began way too early at around 10 o'clock last night. And it's at this time of the season where, depending on how you lost, you begin to assess blame. And when you think about how the Baltimore Ravens lost yesterday, it's very similar to how they lost in the AFC Championship, which is very similar to how they lost in the 2020 playoffs to the Buffalo Bills. It's always some type of inexplicable, self defeating, lack of discipline, inconsistent, can't make the play when the play needs to be made pattern of play. And so when I'm thinking about who's at fault for this one, I'm going to start with the QB. At this point, Lamar Jackson is a two-time MVP. He has the potential to win his third, which I hope he doesn't, because I can't stomach another offseason where Lamar Jackson is the MVP and he's not still playing, and the criticism will come. Does Lamar Jackson deserve criticism for this loss? Yes. Does Lamar Jackson deserve some blame, some accountability for this loss? Yes. But really, when you look at the entire game, at about 50 plus plays of offense, Lamar Jackson only had really two down plays. Now, those two plays were super costly. One of them led directly to a 7-point touchdown by the Buffalo Bills. But he indeed put on the cape and tried to wheel his team to victory. I always like to listen to what a person says in the aftermath of a loss or a letdown, because that's when the feelings and thoughts are the freshest and the rawest. Let's take a listen to hear how Lamar Jackson was speaking last night after the loss to the Bills.
We're a team. First half, I had two costly turnovers. Me not holding the safety, me just knowing the coverage, me knowing it was man, through a BS interception. It was 7-7 at the time. I believe they scored after that. Battle back, fumble. Snap, trying to make something happen. Couldn't throw. It was like a RPO play, so I couldn't really throw the ball to likely, the offensive line down the field. So I was trying to make something happen. Tried to squeeze the ball, it slipped out my hand. Von Miller picked it up, got some yards. I think that led to points for them. So it's a team effort out there. He been busting his behind, he making plays happen out there on that field for us. Came up short. And like I've been saying all season, every time we in situations like this, turnovers play a factor. Penalties play a factor. Tonight, the turnovers can't happen. And that's why we lost the game. Because as you can see, moving the ball wonderfully is hold on to the ball. I'm sorry for my language. Annoying. Tired.
Lamar, you go through the whole regular season, and you're one of the best quarterbacks at preventing turnovers. Little picks, not been that many fumbles this year. And obviously last week, a great game in that regard as well. Is there something different about today, or is it just how things roll?
I mean, that's just how things roll. Like I said, I seen it was man coverage. I just didn't get my eyes on the safety. If I got my eyes on the safety, it wouldn't have been no interception tonight, But going back to the fumble, I still got to hold on to the ball. When bad snap, hold on to the ball, just go down. It's a playoff game. Me knowing that, split second, I'm just trying to make something happen, but just go down.
Yeah, when you hear this first clip, you definitely hear Lamar Jackson take ownership of his mistakes. And I have an appreciation for that. I have an appreciation when a man will stand up and say, you know what, put this on me. Or at least put 100% of what went wrong on me. That is my part. Meaning, Lamar Jackson is not 100% responsible for the entire loss. And I know a lot of people, national sports media, local sports media, and content creation will put 100% of this loss on Lamar Jackson. But I'm not going to. It is not because I'm a black content creator. I had somebody try to hit me with that last all season. It's simply because he's not 100% responsible. I'm going to assess Lamar Jackson to be 35% responsible for this loss. Now, of that 35% of the total team loss, I'm going to make him responsible for 100% of his portion. You see, when you touch the ball more than anybody on the offensive side of the ball, you have a greater impact and influence how that offensive series and or the offensive game plan is executed. And because he came out and went down the field and scored, and then he had two plays that he would definitely love to have back, two game changing plays, two plays that took potential points off the board, I'm going to give him 35% of this blame for this loss. You see, because I can only give him 50, I can only give him 35% because the offensive side of the ball is only 50% of the team. There is a defensive side as well. And the other 15%, I'm going to assign 5% to Todd Monken for a bad game plan or at least a bad calling of that game plan. And then I'm going to give 10% responsibility to the great, but sometimes less great, Mark Andrews. I'm going to give that big of a portion to that one player, not because everybody else was perfect, but because he had two opportunities to make game saving type plays. The catch for 16 yards that he gets knocked out of his hand should have and would have led to potential points for the Baltimore Ravens. Okay, we get another opportunity. Lamar Jackson puts on the cape, leads the team down the field, connects with Isaiah Likely on a 24-yard touchdown. And all Mark Andrews has to do, he's not contested. He's absolutely wide open. Lamar Jackson delivers the ball in the place a receiver wants it, in front of his body, right in his gut, and he flat out drops it. That's on nobody but him. The pass getting the catch getting knocked out, that's on nobody but him. Because you have to be aware of game situation, you have to be aware of the field conditions, and you have to be aware that the defender's job is to knock the ball out. In two plays, I think on two consecutive offensive drives, he dropped the ball. So Lamar Jackson gets 35%. Mark Andrews, he gets 10%. And then the bad scheme and or play calling goes to Todd Monken 5%. But let's listen to a little bit more of Lamar Jackson as he talks about this game.
Lamar, did you talk to Mark after the game? I know you guys are really close.
Yeah, I talked to him on the sideline, but I'm just as hurt as Mark. I don't. It's his fault. Like, all of us played a factor in that game. It's a team effort. I'm not gonna put that on Mark, bro, because he's been battling all season. He's been doing all the great things he's been doing all season. It don't always go our way. We want it to, but at the wrong time, it's like it's not going our way. We need to figure that out.
Lamar, you know how kind of focused and locked in you always are trying to get to that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
How difficult it is at this moment? It's going to be another year before you can begin a pursuit for that again.
Man, I just got to get over this. We right there. I'm tired of being right there. We need to punch in. We need to punch in that ticket. But bro, we gotta get right all season, man.
In the second clip from Lamar Jackson, what you hear is Lamar Jackson taking more ownership of his role in the events of the game. But you heard the reporter ask Lamar Jackson, pay close attention to this part. Did you talk to Mark after the game? Lamar said specifically, I talked to him on the sideline, which speaks to there was no interaction with him and Mark in the locker room. I wonder in Lamar's frustration when he said repeatedly, we have to hold on to the ball. I wonder, does that lean into a little bit more frustration from Mark Andrews putting two balls on the ground in the most vital moments of the fourth quarter? I don't know where the Ravens go from here as far as trusting Mark Andrews, especially in big moments. With understanding, I know he battled back from injury and then a car accident between last season and probably the first 5 or 6 weeks of this season. He came on strong, broke some Baltimore Ravens team records, things of that nature. But I think that everybody needs to sit in their stuff this offseason. It doesn't need to be a turning of the page. It doesn't need to be figure out what went wrong with this past season, because this past season is over. And what went wrong with this past season is that we had been undisciplined the entire season. And that's what we saw in this past game. We made undisciplined, self inflicted errors, right? Two of the biggest plays in this game was no fault of the Buffalo Bills. The bad snap, right? That was all on Tyler Lindenbaum. And then the subsequent bad play by Lamar Jackson, that was all on Lamar Jackson trying to make up for the bad snap. Shades of playoff games of old. The Mark Andrews drop in the end zone for the 2 point conversion, that was on Mark Andrews. That was no fault of the Buffalo Bills. He was wide open. And that's just a sign and symptom of what they've been the entire season. I said after the bye week when the Baltimore Ravens played the New York Giants, they blew them out. Lamar Jackson had 5 touchdowns. I said that my confidence meter in this team had not moved. I was 50% going into the bye week. I was 50% coming out of the New York Giants game. And the reason why is because you saw some signs and symptoms in that game of more undisciplined play and more self-inflicting wounds. You got to remember in that game, Lamar Jackson had a fumble in that first half, in that first quarter, I believe. In that same game, we come out of the bye week having been the most penalized team going into the bye week. We come out of the bye week and we have the most penalties on that particular Sunday as well. So what we saw in the playoffs is not any different than what we had been in the regular season. Yes, we had got it together a little bit over the last 5 games. We had less penalties, but there were still some kinks in the armor. There were still times that the offense would get bogged down. There were still times that we would let some things slide defensively. And all of those chickens, so to speak, came home to roost. So let's watch one last clip from Lamar Jackson and then we'll close out with some commentary.
Get right all season.
Mark, what do you feel like you need to do to avoid those things? I know simple as pulling out the ball, like you said, but what do you feel like you need to do to take that, and what you guys need to do to take that next step?
I mean, I don't even know how you want me to answer that question, man. Like, you basically said it. I said it. Protect the ball. You're not having this combo. You're not asking that question, because if we protect the ball, we still on the field. Now, I believe we driving the ball down the field, we pump points. I don't care if it's a field goal or a touchdown. And it was 3 opportunities that those guys had on their defense that they made for their team to win. We didn't do what we were supposed to do, protecting the ball. That's the number one priority. We didn't do it. Especially me. I'm the leader. I got to protect the ball. So I'm hot.
Two more outside of protecting the ball. Was there anything you saw different from obviously earlier in the season we played the Bills? Was there anything last week that you saw that was different?
Nah, they had different players, but not really. They didn't do anything spectacular.
So in this particular clip, you see the reporter try to hammer home the point of what did Buffalo do and or what do they need to do to be better next season. And Lamar Jackson says the same thing he has said the entire interview: protect the ball. And in fact, Lamar Jackson is correct. But I want to go one step deeper than Lamar went. Discipline, play, and coaching is a part of ball protection. You see, if you're disciplined as a team from top to bottom, the discipline will show up on the field. That's why you see the Buffalo Bills didn't have to be explosive. They didn't have to have any big time plays. Josh Allen didn't have to take over the game. Not that he would or could. He didn't have to take over the game. All they had to do was wait for the Baltimore Ravens to self-destruct and just take those opportunities. Teams have figured out that the Baltimore Ravens are predictable when it comes to self-destruction. Isn't that what Mike Tomlin said about us? That we were predictable? And so when a team is predictable, you just wait around and they'll end up in the place you thought they would, and then you take advantage. That's what the Bills saw in 2020. That's what the Chiefs saw in 2023. And then that's what the Buffalo Bills saw in 2025. And now we're going to ride off into the sunset, trying to figure out what we do for next year. So let me close out on a positive note. This impotent playoff run, or this series of impotent playoff runs by the Baltimore Ravens, has an expiration date. I think that there is exactly 1 year left for the Baltimore Ravens to end up in the Super Bowl and claim a chip, or they blow it all up and tear it down to the studs. Well, Belanger, that's not a positive. It is. Because if we have a time frame for where this thing is going to end, then we have a time frame where we no longer have to suffer with potential season after season that ends in misery and dread season after season. At least if we tear it all down, We don't go into one season after another with hope. We go into one season after another with an expectation that, you know what, we're building something brand new. And so it's going to take some time. Right now, the Baltimore Ravens have a win now type roster, but they have not made win now type moves. I think that they will unfortunately bring back EDC. I think they will bring back John Harbaugh. And I think if Todd Monken doesn't get hired somewhere, he will be back also. Lamar Jackson is back. Derrick Henry is back. Zay will be back and healthy because he has an entire basically 9 months to get ready and right. Isaiah Likely is back. Uh, Certainly, they're probably going to keep Mark Andrews. And then some of the good pieces of this offensive line will also be back. A lot of the defensive fixtures will be back. There will be some changes and some turnover. But the framework for a championship type team will be in place. And so I know you may be wondering, Belanger, you haven't got to anything positive. I don't want none of these players back. All of them trash. I get it. That's what we're feeling right now. But here's the positive. I think the positive is that Lamar Jackson is going to be a better player in 2025, 2026, which means he's going to be even more devastating. I don't mean he's going to throw for more than 40, 100 yards. He's going to throw for more than 40 touchdowns and only have 4 interceptions and run for 900 yards. I don't mean he's going to have 120 passer rating or anything like that. What I mean by more devastating is he has it figured out between the ears now. He has the mental part figured out about football. He said earlier this season that things had begun to slow down for him, right? He told us at some point near the end of the season and the start of the playoffs that sometimes he gets a little antsy in big games. I think that he has gotten over the anxiety of ball when it comes to big games. See, the thing about anxiety is not something that you don't have and then you get after you have success. You actually get anxiety before you start having success. So let me explain what I mean. Coming out of the break, Lamar Jackson seemed to be rejuvenated and refreshed, okay, and beat three teams in 11 days. One of those teams was a team in the Pittsburgh Steelers that he beat on a short week, a team that he was believed to have a mental hurdle against, a team that was believed to have had his number, but he beat them in dominating fashion. He goes on to clinch the AFC North. So it's big game after big game after big game, clinches the AFC North, third seed, and then he faces the Pittsburgh Steelers, the same team that he was believed to have a mental hurdle against earlier, and he dominated them again in the playoffs in a win or go home situation. Then he faces the Buffalo Bills, a team that had beaten him before in the playoffs where he had been plagued with mental mistakes and lack of effective performance. All right. And he goes right down the field in all of the conditions, in all of the snow, in all of the frozen field, in all of the cold weather. He goes right down the field and scores. The mistakes Lamar Jackson made was not a mental mistake in this game. It was a decision mistake. You heard him explain to us that, hey, we don't have an interception if I just look off the safety, which means in the moment, he made a decision uh, not to look off the safety and throw the ball anyway, right? He walks us through what happened. Bad snap, tried to make a play, and that play that he tried to make, another bad decision. But that doesn't say mental hurdle. That just says I need to make a different decision, right? And typically, when Lamar Jackson has early game mistakes in a big contest, he typically goes into the tank. But that's not what we saw at all in this game. In fact, what we actually saw him do is raise his level of play and raise the play of the people around him, right? We watched him perform at that same MVP level. Last two quarters, he was absolutely the best player on the field, making accurate throws, extending plays, and diming it up. And with the exception of two drops, that had the potential to turn into game winning points, Lamar Jackson showed no mental strain, no mental anguish, and no mental worry. That says to me, coming into the off season where he has a higher level of focus, where he's going to be angry and upset about how the season ended in consecutive seasons, I think he's going to be an even more elite version of himself.